Yeah.
I strongly believe would like change the life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people went away from the symposium also struck by that talk, just because, as you said, it was very transparent what was going on. This is basically a paper by Betty Satterwhite and Airy here at Berkeley, which finds that a new variety of rice has been developed by scientists that's very flood resistant. And when they actually take it into the field, people whose area, land gets flooded have much higher yields in that season, and that could be incredibly important in a changing climate if flood becomes more common. And so, yeah, I agree, it was really striking. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Tom Steyer it's very charismatic, clearly very passionate about climate, and a lot of, yeah, that's right. Roxanne.
I really like the one about the finding in India. How they found when they did the experiment, it reduced lying by auditors by significant amount.
Yeah.
I also like how kind of the quality equations of that relationship with the pollution.
Yeah, it's interesting you guys mentioned those talks. I mean, in the climate debate, and like, what are we going to do about climate change, and how, with all its potentially adverse consequences for poor countries, there's the so-called adaptation camp. And the adaptation camp says, look, there is going to be climate change, there is going to be more flooding, there are going to be higher temperatures. We need to develop new technologies like this flood-resistant rice that can deal with it, and let us live in this different climate. And the other camp is the mitigation camp, meaning like pollution control, pollution reduction camp, and that was much more the India pollution paper. So it was, we did try in the program to have these different studies, but those are really striking examples of potentially policy-relevant successes. Great. So thanks, guys, for those thoughts. I'm going to wrap up what we were talking about at the end of lecture 24 and then jump down to the content of lectures 26 and 27. Today, we don't have as much time today because of the evaluations, but I'll go through as much as I can on that. Any other sort of general comments, questions about the symposium, not about the symposium, before jumping in? Okay, so let me just get back to, and just summarize this project in Sierra Leone we got to last time, and just kind of, I was just getting to the punchline, so I just want to spend 10 minutes kind of wrapping up this project. We talked about this project called GoBeFo, or Move Forward, in Sierra Leone, that had these 3 different components. Grants were given out for local projects. Training was given to try to build more capacity locally in terms of setting up a village development committee, coming up with plans, bank accounts, and then finally there were all these attempts to increase the voice and the participation of traditionally marginalized groups like women and youth in these villages. And usually in Sierra Leone, when people say youth, they roughly mean people under 35. That's, I don't know, something like that, rough definition. So how do they do that? They actually allocated funding for smaller sub-projects just for women, just for youths. They had to have representation on these committees. And really the goal was to imagine these 3 things: democratizing local governance, the bottom point, increasing the competence of local government, the second point, and giving them the resources they need to do stuff, which is the funding. So the hope is taking all this together, you're going to get all these really great outcomes. So I was just mentioning this at the end of class last time, we divided outcomes into 2 broad groups. We call one hardware, building stuff, and the other one software. In other words, how things work in the village. So the hardware are things like physical infrastructure or public goods, and the software is the nature of local politics, local decision-making, social capital, all those other things. So what do we find? And again, just to summarize what we were getting last time, there are really 2 main findings. The first finding is the money that was allocated to the treatment villages in Sierra Leone ended up being pretty well used. There wasn't much leakage, and a lot of good stuff got built. So in that sense, this project was a success. And the people who funded the project and the World Bank and the government of Sierra Leone very much point to this and say, look, this was a big success. We built community centers, we repaired classrooms, we created this infrastructure that's important for agriculture, these village grain drying floors that you need to dry grain before you store it, and latrines and other things. So in some sense, this project was quite successful. We also find that there are some increases in measures of household well-being, like asset ownership. It's not too surprising because a big chunk of the money went not just to local projects, like building projects, but also towards local training projects, small grants for local entrepreneurs, etc. So people were better off. The second, that first set of outcomes are relatively easy to measure. If I want to measure the number of school classrooms, I go in and count them. Our enumerators literally went and counted them and said, does it have a roof? What kind of roof does it have? How many buildings does it? How many rooms does it have? How many buildings are there? Very easy to measure. The second set of outcomes are much harder to measure. How do you measure the influence of women in local politics? If we're concerned about inequality, local political inequality by gender. So to measure these things, the project used some standard measures and some not so standard measures. So the standard measures are things you can get in surveys, like ask in a survey whether people had attended the last village meeting, ask in surveys about people's involvement in local decision making. But we wanted to do more, and we took advantage of the fact that when the project was being wrapped up, there was going to be basically another visit to all these villages to tell them that the GoBeFo project was ending, to provide a gift to the village, etc., to basically collect more data. And I started talking about this at the end of class last time. Basically, this situation was utilized to collect more data and to really create situations where the research team could observe local decision making. That was the idea, and they did it in 3 ways. So the first one was the villages were offered. And so there was a matching grant, a choice. I told you about the choice at the end of lecture last time, and then we observed the use of assets. Let me tell you the details. The matching grant was the following. Villages were told, look, you've been participating in this project for years. There's basically a gift that the project's going to give you, but it comes in the form of a matching grant. What does that mean? We're going to give you a certain number of dollars worth, a max of $300 worth of money that can be used at local hardware stores. And we had talked to all the local hardware stores and made sure there's only a few of them to make sure that they would take these vouchers. And for each dollar that the way it works in the matching grant is when money is raised locally, that frees up money that's matched from the project. So if they don't raise any money locally, they don't get any money. But if they raise, the more they raise locally, it's sort of like a 2-for-1 deal. They get to get a lot more money for the activity. And of course, a hardware store has wood and tin roofing and all the different kinds of things you want for local projects. So it was very much in line with how a lot of the villages used the money they got from the project. Anyway, we saw this as a measure of collective action capacity. Here's this good deal that's being offered to the village, this subsidized deal. The village has a few months to redeem these vouchers. In the next few months, can they basically get their act together enough to raise $100 to free up, say, another $100 in vouchers, or not? And in particular, in the context of this study, are the villages that had gotten the village development committee, all those years of facilitation, training, the bank account, the planning, etc., they're able to mobilize to raise the $100 than the villages that didn't. So that was the first outcome. We call each of these structured community activities. That's a terrible acronym. I'm not very good at acronyms. I think it's sort of descriptive. Any suggestions on better acronyms are most welcome. Well, the paper's published. It's too late. Actually, don't tell me. I don't want to know what might have been. Okay, the second one was the communal choice I told you about last time, where again a gift was given to the village. The village members were told they had to figure out which of the 2 gifts they would get, a box full of batteries or a box full of bags of salt. Equal market value. In piloting, it was roughly 50-50 in terms of what the different villages wanted. And the goal here, really from the research point of view, was to understand how villages made decisions. So the team was there. They were told, look, we're leaving in 24 hours. You guys have to decide which of these 2 things you want. And we observed the process that people in the village went through to choose which of these gifts to get. And in particular, what the enumerators did, as I mentioned last time, is they observed how many people came to a meeting. If there was a meeting at all, did the chief just decide on his own? Was there a vote taken? Sort of what happened? What was the nature of decision making like? The third SCA is what we call managing an asset. The idea here is the following. One of the real concerns, including in this project, with programs that decentralize power down to lower and lower levels is that there'll be what's called elite capture of resources or elite capture of power at lower and lower levels. What does that mean? The fear in this context of rural Sierra Leone is maybe the local chiefs and the local chiefly elders will basically dominate whenever proceedings occur, and most of the benefits of the program will accrue to them. So this last intervention work is we thought for a while about a type of asset that could either be used. This was the goal of coming up with this asset. We spent like a year trying to figure out how to do this. What is an asset that could be well utilized either in a public purpose or in a private purpose? Such that if it was given to a village and we observed its use later on, by seeing whether it ended up getting used for a public purpose or private purpose, we would have some sense of whether or not elites or other politically powerful people dominated the political process enough to get these private benefits for themselves. So what we gave out was a tarpaulin, like a big plastic sheeting. This big plastic sheeting is widely used in rural Sierra Leone as a drying surface for grain, just like those grain drying floors I mentioned before. That's a very good public purpose for the tarpaulin. But it can also be used for a private purpose. You could use it for roofing. People very often use it to reinforce their thatch roofing or as roofing on its own in like a private house. Although it could also be used in a community center. So the idea behind this one was this asset was basically dropped off at this village gathering when gifts were given and the project had ended. The tarpaulin was dropped off and said, look, this is a gift for the village as a whole. And 5 months later, a subset of the research team came back and just said, where's the tarpaulin? And they were taken to the tarpaulin. And the question was it roofing the chief's house or was it a drying floor that the whole village was using? And in particular, if you were in the go before treatment areas, is the tarpaulin being used differently than in control areas? Is there something about the nature of the way resources are used that has changed in these areas? Okay, let me pause for a second and see if there's any questions on these. Yeah.
I have a quick question about what the control group is. So
Yeah.
Is what's being tested the more intensive work with the community that they're doing, or is it like a bunch of elders design? Like, is it status quo, or is it a lesser version of CD?
I'm a little confused by the questions. So you're saying what's being tested with these activities? So I will just say both the treatment and the everybody went through these activities, whether they were treatment or control, in GoBeFo. So people went through, villages went through 3.5 years of GoBeFo. Either the village committee would set up all these activities, all this money, all the training, etc., or nothing for 3.5 years. And at the very end of the 3.5 years, all the villages in both of those groups, sorry, I wasn't clear, in both of those groups went through all these activities, and there was this sort of assessment of how decision making took place in these different villages. Does that clarify or not?
So the control groups didn't get any funding at all for
Nope. The control groups were surveyed a couple times, baseline, endline, a couple intermediate surveys, but not a ton, and then these activities took place at the end. Now, some of these are nice, like getting a few $100s for building supplies is good, but it's much smaller, obviously, than what the treatment group got. That was by design. Yeah.
About the policy implications of waste management asset.
Yeah.
So if you did find that a class of old, elder, and elite males were controlling these assets,
Yeah.
then is the policy implication that you either A, directly give these goods to marginalized groups like women, or is it that you attach conditions to A that says these people must prove that you serve X number of groups in this state?
It's an interesting question. I think there's one set of implications around programs like GoBeFo and sort of like what they're able to do. Are they able to change how things work or not? That's one set of implications. But we're going to find that these things didn't change. So then it comes to your point. Like, I really want to get this asset to certain groups. What should I do? I don't think this experiment is necessarily set up to answer the second question. But you might say yes. Maybe leaving it open, leaving it to the whole village in terms of how to decide how to allocate things isn't going to be good enough if we really want to make sure certain subgroups get assets. That could be an implication, but we want to test that. I think, David.
For treatment control groups, or randomly set one of these three things, or all of them?
All of them. So treatment and control get all these sort of at the end of the project.
Things done like all at once to do like 50 different things for you?
Yeah, it's like here we are, program's over, here's some gifts for the village. Here's a voucher opportunity, thanks for participating. Here's this tarpaulin, thanks for participating. And we have salt and batteries, thanks for participating. We'll be around for the next 24 hours, so you can tell us about the salt and the batteries. The villages didn't know about the 5-month later on sort of visit. This visit was useful too, I'm not getting into it too much today, but we did some additional surveying 5 months later to see how persistent any effects were. Like we thought there might be effects while the program was going on, but then 5 months later they might have dissipated. It turned out that even at this point at the end of the program, there were no effects on any of these processes. So, yeah.
So tarpaulin. So we said like community action tarpaulin be a like drying floor.
Yeah.
But if all the treatment groups have already made a drying floor, like the difference because like the control group needs a tarpaulin floor and the treatment group doesn't need it anymore. So like it's more likely to go to like an actual family that will make it.
Definitely, I think that's one of the concerns with interpreting all these. Even the first one, you might say, look, we know the treatment group already built lots of stuff, so maybe they're not like taking up this voucher opportunity because like they built everything they need and they're kind of well stocked. So that's that is one of the concerns. And you could say it's the same thing about the drying floor. At the end of the day, our feeling is even though that is a reasonable concern, there's such an incredible lack of infrastructure in these villages in so many dimensions that a really subsidized building project is probably still going to be valuable, but maybe a little less valuable. So you're raising a kind of more general point. What ends up happening with the tarpaulin, just anticipating a little bit, is the vast majority of tarpaulins aren't used at all. They were basically just being stored somewhere. So it wasn't like they were being captured. It wasn't like they were being like the chief was using them or whatever. We're not sure if that's because people couldn't decide what to do with them or what exactly was going on. But we didn't find systematic differences in the use of the tarpaulin. We just didn't find they were being used much at all. So maybe it was the wrong asset, or maybe we need to go back after a year, or things like that. Okay, so let me give you the kind of summary. I've already anticipated this, but when we measure decision-making processes, social capital, involvement of women, all these other things, we don't find significant differences between the GoBeFo treatment and control groups. We don't find that the treatment villages are more likely to take votes at meetings. We don't find greater attendance by women or youth. We don't find women or youth are more likely to speak up. We don't find that they're better able to take advantage of a collective action opportunity. Basically zero across the board. And just to put it in perspective, there are huge gaps at baseline in how involved in public meetings, at least, women and youth are relative to older men. This is like it basically started at parity and it stayed at parity. Like there's nothing close to equality of voice, at least, for women. One of the things that comes out very clearly in the data on the village councils, and again, I mentioned this in the class last time, is that chiefs and other elders, basically chiefly authorities, are very, very well represented on village councils. They get elected to village councils, they have a lot of control. So it's not like, even though these new committees were set up, it kind of looks like business as usual for the most part. The same people who were influential before are influential here, and maybe this intervention, one way of looking at it, this intervention didn't go far enough. But if you're actually going to change the representation of marginalized groups, you have to do more than this very soft sort of intervention. You have to actively put individuals who are from marginalized groups in positions of authority. and there was really no stomach for that. Here, let me give one example of this kind of business as usual approach, and it sort of illustrates how institutions get set up or organizations get set up but don't have an impact. So the trainers, the people that came in to train the village councils in these CDD processes, they're actually from the Netherlands. They came in, they were really into communal farms. I don't know why. They really believed the way to go was communal farms. Maybe communal farms are good or bad. There isn't really that much evidence that communal farms are like way more efficient than private property. In fact, most economists would probably say private property. If you look at the transition from communism in China, once you went from communal farms to private property, yields tripled or something. So, but maybe communal farms are good in some settings. Maybe there's ways you can organize it. I don't know. I don't have very strong views. But they were into communal farms. So in the treatment groups, all the treatment groups set up communal farms. They put down a plot of land and said, this is a communal farm. In the control groups, there were very few communal farms. When we went back at the end of the GoBeFo project 5 months later, and we surveyed people, one of the questions we asked is, have you done any work in the last month on the communal farm? Because we knew it was there. It was still called the communal farm. And basically no one in the treatment group was working on the communal farm. So a lot of effort went into setting something up that was sort of foreign, that was sort of imposed by the CDD trainers, who saw this as this incredibly progressive intervention. They were going to tell people to do communal farms, but no one wanted to grow up these communal farms. So it's sort of kind of a waste of time. Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's kind of my take on the paper. I think it's really good analysis about how to GoBeFo, but it doesn't seem to actually really get at the issues that those advocates CDDs, yeah, methodologies that support this thing. Like, this is not an unexpected result of CDD. And
so what would be kind of the fundamental change in the program or difference in the program to make it like pure, real CDD?
well, I mean,
Or is there no way you can design a program from outside that would truly be locally driven? Is that the contradiction? How can you fund CDD and support CDD from outside without undermining local government? I mean, that's always been the conundrum for me. I've never gotten a straight answer. Maybe someone has the answer to that.
You just have a CDD-based assessment to base your design on. So go and see what they want done.
Yeah. So the trainers that came in did that, and the needs assessment looked incredibly similar in a lot of the treatment villages, and everybody wanted communal farm. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was sort of like they came in with very strong priors. Was that?
Did they say you want a communal farm? Because I think somebody else went in and did like
You're like, sure, yeah. But I think that was sort of it. I think the trainers kind of came in with a very strong set of priors, because they were like, everybody wanted 18 goats and a communal farm. And there was like way too much correspondence in that across the village. We're like, really, half of you want 18 goats? Why not 19? And it was clearly because the trainers were like, I think 18 goats is about the right amount for you guys. Yeah.
I would respond in a couple ways. One is like the other question about engaging local people in the
Yeah.
going in and non-participatory before getting community assessment, and then we're going to get these kinds of results. And really engaging people getting on because that's a real important part of democracy and control.
Yeah.
Think of our own government here in the United States.
Yeah.
In the Constitution, there is a sentence. They said it's the First Amendment, you get freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. Our founding fathers got that from before. At least in the also clear. So I think that's really what the action in CDD now needs to be getting people control their own assessments.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I think the assessment got corrupted in some way. I mean, my view in seeing it was like, it didn't feel like a real assessment. It was supposed to be, but yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of the participatory kind of development moves go into these games and they'll try to get this.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's an answer yet. I think that there's a way. Having worked in a specific project, in China, that was something I always thought, like, my village survey said there were 68 families and there were 72 families raising cattle.
Right.
And that's basically the problem with that. People are like, you can't even know what's going on. How can you have real
Yeah.
violent development?
I would totally agree with that. Yeah.
I think this is very deeper in terms of evaluating the work of GoBeFo, and it's very deeper in explaining how it's important to have a pre-analysis plan. But there is sort of there's that paragraph in the conclusion that, well, because this program didn't work, that means that all CDD doesn't work in the institutions, which is a really dangerous assertion.
Well, I think the last paragraph says there's a lot of different, this is one country, one program. If you look at the last paragraph, we obviously can't generalize, but this is a potential implication, if it generalizes. So I think we were walking a fine line and saying, like, look, if this does generalize, it could be really important. But we did, I think it's literally the last sentence, like, this is one program, one country, like, let's keep that in mind. But I think to some extent, this paper has been received, there's been a mixed reception, because CDD has advocates and opponents, and clearly this paper has been, the opponents like it, you can imagine why. And I think this paper, frustrates or confuses the advocates, but it's shifted the debate a little bit in the parts of the bank that are debating the use of the World Bank, that are debating the use of this money, because it's sort of like, I think the onus is more on the CDD folks to say, like, okay, show us their impacts. And again, if you think CDD is really good, and this program was just a corrupted version of it that's really bad, I can see why you would see this as being very dangerous, because now it's like shifting the focus away from what should be done, but at the same time, we need to have evidence of, more evidence of CDD impact. I'm sure even CDD supporters would say that, but
I mean, I was talking to Sheree about this.
Yeah.
She's like, it's really, really tough doing RCD for CDD.
Yeah.
Because, the way that you want to do good CDD is really hard to quantify.
yeah. But then it becomes really tricky. If there's a program that has a set of very hard to quantify outcomes, they're kind of inherently at a disadvantage in the fundraising game within governments or with donors, because it's hard for them to prove what they've done. But at the same time, if you have a prior that there's no impact, no one can disprove that prior. If even the supporters say, well, we can't really quantify this, if they're going to want to support this, they're going to have to find a way to quantify it, or they're not going to get funding, I think. Well, that's one possibility. Yeah.
I think we can look at these as a very score. I mean, there's great things that RCT, giving all the kids anti-warning pills, warning pills. That's a really valid method of development. But it's how you change the institution. You don't get to own that process. I get the funding, I get the timing of that, but when we think about where we want to develop a move, there are these things that we can't quantify.
Yeah.
And they don't just naturally come because there's no more governance.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Maybe it's a policy coming from the outside to who wants to do this. This is what I think would be. For example, I think that they're very easily developing the program to offer and use that as a national experiment. I think that's the thing from this class, where you can just look at control. You just do it without having to I'm just needing to go just see what's there. I don't know how come like this class really use natural experiment.
Why did we or didn't we use?
Yeah, how come that is not there? There's so much machine without this.
Yeah.
And like this experiment has so much memories.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, when we just stepping back about the class and thinking about what we've studied